ISO 27017 in the cloud, real security or audit theater. Introduction. This happens more than you'd like to admit. You move to the cloud, your provider shows you a pile of badges, someone forwards a PDF with controls, and your company exhales. Great, we're secure now. That's where the risk begins. Because cloud security doesn't fail only because attackers are brilliant. It fails because the basics get messy, misconfigurations, overly broad permissions, assets nobody monitors, and teams that can't agree on who owns what. The document behind this article is blunt: shared responsibility gets quoted everywhere, and implemented almost nowhere. And when it's implemented halfway, you don't get shared security. You get a shared void. That's the backdrop for ISO/IEC 27017. It's often marketed as the cloud security standard that fixes everything. But if you buy it like a lucky charm, it can cost you time, money, and, worst, false confidence. The document makes one thing crystal clear: ISO 27017 is cloud-specific security guidance published in 2015 and confirmed in 2024, but it isn't independently certifiable. What you can get is a statement of conformity as an extension of an existing ISO 27001 certification, once you already have an information security management system, ISMS, in place. So let's keep this practical and honest. We'll cover 1. What ISO 27017 can actually do for you, and what it can't. 2. Its real limits in 2026. 3. How to decide if it's worth it, and how to implement it without falling into compliance mirages. ISO 27017 without the hype: what it is and what it isn't. ISO/IEC 27017:2015 is a code of practice with security guidelines specific to cloud services. In plain terms, it's a "do it this way" guide for cloud security. Here's the first reality check: there's no standalone ISO 27017 certification. You can't get certified in 27017 as a separate product. What exists is a conformity statement issued as an extension to a prior ISO 27001 certification, only after you already have an operational ISMS, Information Security Management System, under 27001. That's not a technical footnote. It changes how you should buy it, sell it, and talk about it. If someone offers ISO 27017 certification without ISO 27001, the document warns that this is a common market confusion or misrepresentation. Another key distinction: ISO 27017 is based on ISO/IEC 27002, a catalog of controls, what to do, not ISO 27001, a management system, how to run it. The link to 27001 is indirect, through your ISMS. Think of your ISMS as the operating system for security, roles, processes, evidence, internal audits, improvement. ISO 27017 is a cloud-specific configuration pack. It helps only if the operating system actually runs. The problem is real: cloud breaks through confusion and neglect. The document backs the problem with strong stats. The pattern matters. In 2025, 61% of organizations reported at least one cloud security incident. It also states 82% of data breaches involved information stored in the cloud, and 26% of breaches were caused by human error. The root cause isn't wizard-level hacking. It's disorder, misconfiguration, poor visibility, and unclear responsibility boundaries. There's even internal misalignment. 42% of cloud engineers believe they're responsible for security, but only 19% of security teams agree. That's not a tech gap, it's an organizational gap. That's why the document pushes a RACI matrix: responsible, accountable/authority, consulted, informed. It sounds bureaucratic, but in cloud it's survival. Because shared responsibility can't stay a slogan, it must become tasks with evidence. Questions you should answer without guessing. Asterisk: who patches which layer? Asterisk who configures firewalls. A firewall is basically a bouncer deciding who gets in. Asterisk who reviews permissions and access. Asterisk who responds to incidents, and how fast. If you can't attach names, processes, and evidence, you don't have shared responsibility. And watch the most common anti-pattern, assuming the provider's certification transfers to you. A CSP's ISO 27001 covers the provider's infrastructure, not your configurations, your data, or your access controls. What ISO 27017 adds: cloud controls and practical guidance. ISO 27017 doesn't reinvent security. It takes ISO 27002 structure and adds cloud-specific guidance. The document says it introduces 7 cloud-exclusive controls, CLD prefix, and cloud guidance for existing 27002 controls. Those 7 CLD controls, as described, address asterisk shared roles and responsibilities, CLD.6.3.1. Asterisk secure deletion of assets, CLD.8.1.5. Asterisk segregation in virtual computing environments, CLD.9.5.1. Asterisk virtual machine hardening, CLD.9.5.2. Asterisk providers operational admin security, CLD.12.1.5. Asterisk monitoring customer activities, CLD.12.4.5. Asterisk alignment of virtual network environments, CLD.13.1.4. Here's what people ignore: controls depend on your service model. In IaaS you can touch layers you'll never see in SaaS. Example 1, common in real life. If you're a SaaS consumer, VM hardening is basically irrelevant, you don't manage that layer. If you're on IaaS, skipping it can leave your VM soft and exposed. The document also flags a transparency issue: different sources describe coverage in different counts, 7 plus 37, 44, or 15 controls with cloud guidance. It explains why, without access to the full paid standard text, very detailed normative claims are approximations, not direct quotes. 2 technical areas the document does ground with concrete meaning. Asterisk secure deletion in cloud isn't delete the file. It means ensuring physical storage isn't reused in a way that exposes data. The document mentions overwriting/demagnetizing before reassignment. Asterisk virtual segregation isn't just separate accounts. There's a documented risk of VM escape. Imagine a VM as an apartment. Escape is getting out of your apartment into the building's hallway, the provider's hypervisor. The point isn't panic, it's clarity about what segregation must protect. What ISO 27017 can't fix, and marketing won't tell you. This is the heart of it: ISO 27017 is a tool, not a guarantee. Limit 1, Age and Tech Scope. The document notes the standard is 9 years old, published 2015, confirmed 2024, and says it doesn't specifically cover containers, serverless, multi-cloud, or edge computing. Confirmed doesn't mean complete. It also states ISO lists it as to be revised, with an expected alignment to ISO/IEC 27002:2022. Limit 2, no cited empirical proof of outcomes. The document explicitly says there's no empirical evidence, in the analyzed materials, that ISO 27017 organizations have fewer incidents, lower breach costs, or a better posture than those without it. That doesn't make it worthless. It makes it a decision you should take based on needs, not belief. Limit 3, full text access constraints. Since the standard text is paid, detailed normative claims are limited. And then there's the most dangerous limit. The security mirage: having a control isn't, it works. The document calls out a mental trap, confusing documentation with effectiveness. For a control to be real, you need evidence for 4 questions. 1. Who owns it? 2. What does it cover? 3. How is it implemented? 4. How is it tested? Without that, you've described an ideal world, not your operating reality. A painful example from the document: 32% of cloud assets aren't monitored, with an average of 115 vulnerabilities per unmonitored asset. If your paperwork claims, "We monitor everything," but a third of assets are invisible, your control exists, and still fails. The most concrete practice the document proposes to close that gap: infrastructure as code, IAC, with automated reviews. Think of IAC as a written recipe for your infrastructure. If the recipe is automatically reviewed, risky ingredients are harder to sneak in unnoticed. How to implement without fooling yourself: steps, tips, and mistakes. If you move forward, don't ask, "How do I get the badge?" Ask, "How do I avoid being sedated by the badge?" Implementation: 3 to 5 steps. Step 1. Prove your ISO 27001 ISMS is alive. The document warns about the "we already have ISO 27001, we're ready" syndrome. It says there aren't clear maturity criteria in the analyzed docs, only vague time markers like 12 months or 2 years. The practical point: maturity isn't time. It's operational quality. Step 2. Turn shared responsibility into a RACI with tasks and evidence. Not generic roles. Concrete tasks: patching, configuration, identity/access management, incident response, log review. No names plus no evidence equals not ready. Step 3. Map controls to your service model, SaaS/IaaS, and your multi-cloud reality. In multi-cloud, complexity multiplies. The document says AWS, Azure, and GCP responsibility models aren't identical or necessarily compatible. Without internal policies to translate them, your RACI becomes unmanageable. Example 2, multi-cloud pain. Your team decides, IT owns network setup and security reviews. In AWS it's implemented one way, in Azure another, and in GCP with different mechanics. If you don't convert that into platform-specific controls and evidence, you end up with 3 RACIs that conflict. Step 4. Close the paper-to-reality gap with automated verification. The document points to IAC plus automated reviews. What you can't verify tends to decay. Step 5. Buy tools only if you can respond. The document frames 3 dimensions. Asterisk people, cloud governance capability. Asterisk process, DLP integration, data loss prevention. Asterisk technology, CASB, cloud access security broker, for shadow IT visibility. It also mentions CSPM, cloud security posture management. But it warns, tools without remediation capacity become paid noise. Actionable practices, 3 to 5 tips. Tip 1. Enforce MFA where it matters most. MFA, multi-factor authentication, is like 2 keys to open a door. The document warns only 38% of organizations use MFA on privileged cloud accounts. You don't need magic promises. You need coverage. Tip 2. Review permissions and segment access. Over-permissioning is a shortcut to incidents. Segmentation and frequent reviews cost more discipline than licensing. Tip 3. Inventory plus real monitoring, not declarative. If assets aren't monitored, start by knowing what exists and what's truly watched. Tip 4. Prioritize high-impact controls even without certification. The document makes an uncomfortable point: selecting a small set of high-impact controls without certifying can reduce risk more than paper compliance without implementation. Certification is commercial. Security is technical. Tip 5. Consider technical benchmarks if you don't need the badge. If your goal is real security and not a commercial seal, the document suggests CIS benchmarks for your main cloud provider as a high-impact free alternative, for most orgs, as it states. Common mistakes, 2 to 3, and how to avoid them. Mistake 1. Assuming the provider's certification covers you. Fix it with RACI and evidence, provider scope versus your scope. Mistake 2. applying controls generically without service model mapping. Fix it by mapping per SaaS/IaaS and per platform. Mistake 3, optimizing for audit instead of operations. Fix it by asking, how do we test it, and what automatic evidence do we have? Costs and framework choices, what to check before you pay. The document provides indicative ranges, not predictive. Asterisk small, less than 50, with existing ISO 27001, 3 to 6 months, USD 20,000 to 50,000. Asterisk mid, 50 to 504 to 8 months, USD 40,000 to 100,000. Asterisk large, greater than 506 to 18 months, USD 100,000, 300,000 plus. It also warns they don't specify geography, constant currency, or internal opportunity cost. It includes a documented real case, a company estimated 3 months and $25,000. It ended up at 7 months and $85,000 due to provider log issues, contracts without return clauses, and missing VM hardening. The message isn't, don't do it. It's, don't underestimate it. Finally, the document compares frameworks with context, SOC 2 Type 2 for North American customers, ISO 27017 for international markets, Europe, Asia, Middle East, CSA Star Level 2 for cloud infrastructure providers seeking maximum visibility. It also states a 60 to 70% control overlap between SOC 2 and ISO 27017. Conclusion: ISO/IEC 27017 isn't pointless. It targets a real cloud problem, responsibility confusion, weak visibility, and controls that look good on paper but don't hold in production. The document supports this with incident and breach patterns, and with the recurring reality that the customer side often carries the consequences when shared responsibility isn't operationalized. But ISO 27017 isn't a shield. It isn't independently certifiable, it depends on an ISMS that actually works, not just exists, and the document is clear about its limits for the 2026 landscape. Most importantly, the analyzed materials don't provide empirical proof that having ISO 27017 automatically means fewer incidents or lower breach costs. It can help structure discipline, if you don't confuse structure with security. Before you decide, go back to the document's 4 questions. 1. Do you need certification for commercial or regulatory reasons? 2. Does your ISMS work in practice, not only on paper? 3. Do you have operational capacity to keep controls alive? 4. Have you checked whether practical technical controls without certification would protect you better right now? Cloud doesn't reward compliance. It rewards discipline. ISO 27017 can help, if you don't let it become a mirage. If you found this helpful, consider supporting my work. ko-fi.com/luisospina21292. Or reach out for professional consulting. info@vvc-consultor.com